After discussing with you about overcoming, it felt important to talk about perfectionism. A couple months ago, my journey with perfectionism began, or my journey of breaking free of it began, and it really started with someone asking me, and I guess better said, observing in me that I am a perfectionist. And it was the first time that label, that term, caught my attention. It's not the first time I've been caught it, and you may feel the same. And shoot, if you have lived with type 1 diabetes or any diagnosis that is solely dependent on how you make decisions, you've probably developed perfectionism. It's become a part of you. But this was the first time months ago that I was like, okay, let me think this through. And wouldn't you know it, as the Lord always does, as soon as I had an awareness that there's something to this, an Instagram post crossed my path and it linked perfectionism with shame. Okay. This feels like it's getting somewhere. And I had in my notebook, I'm a big journaler. I would encourage you to be a journaler. It's life-changing, transformed my life. I wrote that perfectionism that leads to shame, which I've made it a master in many areas of my life. And I could say thank you to diabetes for sure for being an open door for that to some degree. But a really interesting note that I wrote, shame and grace cannot coexist. Shame is what also makes me feel unsafe or a victim. Relatable, maybe? Shame is the cause of fear to manifest in my life. Now this is getting really interesting because I would have never personally correlated shame with any diagnosis that I've had. I've never made any crazy decisions in my life that I've had shame around that I'm aware of. But God's telling me otherwise, which is also really interesting because a lot of people misquote in scriptures that the heart is evil or like no man knows their heart, only God knows it. It's deceitful. And I feel like it's been quoted to basically say like we stink as a human population. But what I'm understanding is that through God's perfect creation of each of us individually, we come into the earth, life happens to us, we get a little corrupt, for lack of better terms, because of life happening to us, and we're being human, so we respond as humans, and He wants to clean it up. But the only way He can clean it up is to reveal to us the things that are hidden that we don't even know are hidden. And this is what is showing up when God took me on the journey of perfectionism and what that means in regards to my healing journey with diabetes, with unknown diagnoses, with my mental health. This was part of it. So shame is the cause of fear to manifest in my life. Shame is what creates doubt about how God can even use me and causes me to focus on my inabilities. Now, if you're someone living with type 1 diabetes, like myself, how many things does it feel like we can't do? Now, I know there's been defiance in us at some point to prove otherwise. But at the end of the day, if you surrender all and you're like, Lord, reveal my heart to me, would you believe that you would find that you have some shame around your inabilities to do things in life, which then just pushes you to work harder, to be more motivated, to perfect your life? Interesting consideration. And I put all this is found in the expectation of perfectionism and throwing away His grace. I have made perfectionism a master in many areas of my life, and I've placed it higher than God's grace. And you already know from previous videos that I gave my life full-fledged, fully committed in 2017 to Jesus. And I have heard a lot about grace. I have taken courses on grace, and I have fallen in love with the concept of grace. But I have not allowed grace to rule my life. And this was showing that. And again, pausing and thinking about you as a listener, what would you have to say about yourself? Does his grace wash over you every day? Do you feel it? Do you feel that if you eat a snack and not give insulin, or you forget to give insulin, or you have a bad blood sugar day, or you're just more tired than usual and you can't move around, get about, do you beat yourself up first? Or do you say, man, God, I know that there's enough grace to carry me through today, and I trust you and you alone? Fair question. And even if you're not someone that follows Jesus the way that I do, or believe in God, what is the first thing that you do? Is it to beat yourself up? Because no matter what your belief system is, if that's the first thing, you strive for perfectionism and you're carrying shame. And through my personal belief, there's only one person that can set us free. And this got really interesting because then I defined shame. And shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the awareness, the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Well, this is just really starting to prick the heart and be really convicting, because every time I would mess up with diabetes, I would be stressed. A little humiliated, honestly, when I pause and again reflect and think about it. And it would be painful. It would be painful because so many times in my life have I been told that diabetes brings all this other stuff to your life. Not good stuff either. It would be painful because I feel like I failed, because ever since diagnosis, I had to calculate my insulin dosing, check my blood sugar, look at my carbs on every food item. Not only just carbs, you then have to kind of learn fat and protein because they affect how your body digests food. Will you get it right, Hope? Will you get it right? That's the question that always looms over my head, and that's painful. But let me tell you some good news about squashing perfectionism and shame, is that Jesus never uses the word shame in the Bible. And David, on the other hand, uses it a ton when talking about his enemies in the book of Psalms. So here's the thing. He's talking about his enemies, which David had a lot of enemies. He was hiding for part of his life. He simultaneously was man after God's own heart. But when he talks about his enemies, you have to remember, again, my belief system that I have shared in previous videos. We have one enemy. You are a child of God, no matter what your belief system is. He created you. And there is an enemy coming after you who puts sickness on you, who tries to cripple you with ailments and stress and anxiety and fear and ADHD and multiple diagnoses, because he knows that will potentially, depending on where you allow it to take you, he knows it will hinder what you do in this life. So there's actually one enemy. And so, because there's one enemy, he puts his shame on us through our awareness, our consciousness. And the enemy that I'm referring to is Satan. He does have little minions, if you will. So he has a whole camp. But at the end of the day, it's the shame that he carried from when he fell from heaven and brought all this yuck into the world. He is putting his shame on us through our awareness. We were never meant to carry shame, never meant to expect so much out of ourselves, never meant to try and be perfectionist in this life. It was never for us. And how do I know this? In the book of Genesis, shame is the first thing that Adam and Eve felt when they fell, when they listened to the serpent in the garden. That was like, did God really say that you can't have any fruit from this tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge? Did God really say? And They consume it. Eve didn't know better. It was Adam that didn't tell her. And bam, sin enters, aka the things of the enemy enter into them. First thing is shame. That was never meant to be ours. He tricked them, and bam, their awareness was awakened to all the things that they couldn't do, their inabilities, right? Their brokenness. What is evil? What is perfectionism versus imperfect? The list goes on. They were able to now compare. And wouldn't you know, when you live a life with sickness, ailments, diagnoses, comparison, it comes. They say comparison is a thief of joy. And comparison links arms with perfectionism and shame. So that was extremely eye-opening to me. And what I did that really broke the back of perfectionism and really began me living out His grace, God's grace, was repenting for letting shame be a master over my life, without pointing fingers at diabetes, living with it since I was 11, without saying, wow, this thing sucks, and being really angry at diabetes, which is where most of my motivation and previous content came, like way down the line on old content that is still on my YouTube channel. This is repenting for me choosing to continue to let shame and perfectionism be a master in my life. Repenting for that. And then just asking God to wash my awareness clean. My awareness of what shame is supposed to look like, or what shame does look like. My awareness to what should be. And dude, break the back of shoulds. Yeah. I didn't actually put that one, but that's a good one. Break the back of shoulds. I don't want that. Because at the end of the day, my journey is mine. Yours is yours. How do we know what we should do when there's only one author of our lives? Beginner, beginner and finisher. The beginning and the end. There's only one. We don't know what we should do. We think we know, but we only think so because we have this awareness. But this awareness, it's not a perfect awareness. There's one perfection that's ever existed, and that was Jesus. And we get to inherit all that He is. And as we inherit that, we have a mirror that shows us our reflection and reveals our heart and allows us to see that He wants all of us imperfect. And He wants us to be honest about ourselves and where we are in life so He can heal us. And He absolutely wants to remove shame and to tell you that He thought you were amazing before He ever designed you. Before conception. He said, well done, when He saw you, when He was forming you. And just because you're walking out a diagnosis or disease now, it's not over. It's not over, not because you got a lot more to figure out to get yourself together, which is what I realized I believed. But it's not over because you're still going. And that is the most perfect thing you can do. Is to keep going. And declare over yourself that the best is yet to come. Jesus came to heal, restore, and renew. And that's on every part of you, your body, your soul, your spirit. And they all work together. So we squash perfectionism because we say no to shame. We are not ashamed of where we are now. We are not ashamed of where we've been. And we're not ashamed what the future looks like because we don't even know, but He knows. God knows. And shame was never ours to have. And this seems like a good quote to end on. I have this really lovely journal that I love to journal in, and it's called She Believes. And of course, I love it because I'm a female, and it just speaks to my soul. But it says, she believes in the... I'm sorry. I love Him so much. God is so good. She believes in the beauty of grace and the love that comes from a heart that's been broken and put back together by the gentle hands of a loving God. That's what I believe now. I didn't really believe it many months ago. Not to the depth that I do now. May that be your story too. You believe in the beauty of grace and the love that comes from a heart that's been broken and put back together by the gentle hands of a loving God. And this is quoted from scripture. It's a quote pulled from a scripture, but Isaiah 61:1-3, where it's a prophetic word by the prophet Isaiah about Jesus. And it says, He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to give them beauty for ashes, that He may be glorified. You're beautiful. Believe that today through His love.